Hey everybody, this is James.
Marco.
Nabil.
And if you guys can tell, Mikey is not with us today because the way I'm saying it sounds like he died, but no, he is just not feeling well, so I'm going to be missing this episode. So it's original trio this time around.
OG crew.
Once again, though, this is the Weeb House podcast number 183. Today we're going to be continuing the Star Trek segment, Voyage into Star Trek, with a continuing review of the Star Trek motion films with a review of Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. After that, we're diving into the new theatrical release of Speak No Evil. So without further ado, let's begin.
Why, Spock? Why? All you had to do was pull the trigger.
If I had pulled the trigger, Cyborg would be dead.
I ordered you to defend your ship.
You ordered me to kill my brother.
But the man may be a fellow Vulcan, but that doesn't...
No, Captain. You do not understand. Cyborg also is a son of Sarek.
You mean he's your brother?
So for Voyage into Star Trek, we've made it now to the fifth film in the Star Trek motion picture collection or filmography, I guess you might say. So with that being said, like the previous four films we've done, we've given you a little trivia, behind the scenes facts into the production and kind of the background info overall with how these movies are not only made, but production design, sound editing, etc. Star Trek V was actually shaped by William Shatner's fascination with televangelists and their manipulation of faith. Shatner originally envisioned a confrontation with a godlike figure that turned into Satan, but the studio pushed back. The final script presented the God character as a fraud and Zybok as more sympathetic. Budget cuts reduced Shatner's grand finale, but the film proceeded despite creative disagreements.
Art director Nilo Rodis, working closely with Shatner, helped create a grittier Star Trek universe. Despite budget constraints, Rodis designed sets and costumes that brought Shatner's vision to life. Production designer Herman Zimmerman and location scout Tim Downs played key roles in building the sets and finding suitable locations.
Filming began in October 1988 amid a Hollywood truck driver strike, which led to filming at Yosemite under police escort. The crew dealt with extreme heat and logistical challenges, including a record-setting stunt fall. Despite initial praise, Shatner later faced issues with special effects.
With Industrial Light and Magic unavailable due to writer's strike, Brand Farron's company was brought in to handle visual effects under tight deadlines. Budget issues led to the scrapping of the rock monster climax. Shatner was dissatisfied with the final effects, but the studio refused additional funds for reshoots. Shatner oversaw the film's editing effects, resulting in a final cut that met studio demands for a shorter runtime. Despite initial negative feedback from test screenings, the final version received better reviews after re-editing.
A highlight of the film was Jerry Goldsmith's score, which balanced action and character while revisiting themes from previous Star Trek entries.
Sound designer Mark Mangini reused familiar sound effects and created new ones for Cybok's mind melts, adding detailed Foley work for an immersive experience.
The Final Frontier was part of a trend in 1980s sci-fi exploring spiritual themes. The film tackled theological questions directly, with Kirk concluding that God might be found, quote, in the human heart. Marketed as a major summer blockbuster, The Final Frontier faced stiff competition and ultimately fell short of its $200 million prediction. It opened strong, but quickly dropped in revenue, grossing $49.6 million domestically and becoming one of the summer's biggest disappointments.
Critically, the film was a letdown, with negative reviews focusing on its story and special effects. It holds a 23% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 43 in Metacritic, with CinemaScore audiences giving it an A-. It was also a Razzie Awards contender, winning 3 out of 6 nominations.
Yikes. So without further ado, here is our review of Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
On a desolate planet, a renegade Vulcan seeks ultimate knowledge.
To find it, we'll need a starship.
And he will stop at nothing to get it.
I dreamt that a madman had taken over the Enterprise.
You look like you've just seen a ghost.
Perhaps I have, Captain. Our destination is the planet Shakari, Eden, at the center of the galaxy.
The center of the galaxy can't be reached.
If you ask me, and you haven't, I think this is a terrible idea. We're bound to bump into the Klingons.
So as Nabil said, this is sitting at 23% of Rotten Tomatoes. The synopsis is, Captain Kirk and his crew must deal with Mr. Spock's long-lost half-brother, who hijacks the Enterprise for an obsessive search for God at the center of the galaxy. This is directed by William Shatner, actually, first time here, who also in 2002 directed Groom Lake and The Captains in 2011, based on Star Trek, created by Gene Roddenberry. Written by David Lowery, who also wrote The Three Musketeers in 1993, Money Train in 1995, and Lakeview Terrace in 2008. This was released on June 9th, 1989, With a budget of $33 million, its overall box office made only $70.2 million. And once again, I kind of shortened the cast because it was like the same exact people every single time, guys. And it was just like, hey, how many times do you want us to bring up Sulu? Or,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
William Shatner plays James T. Kirk, Leonard Nimoy Spock, DeForest Kelly's Leonard McCoy, and Lawrence Luckenbill is Cybok. So, start off with you guys. I'm going to start with you, Marco. What is your history with Star Trek V, The Final Frontier?
As you know, I saw this in theaters. I was there on premiere night.
Probably.
Ripe age of 55 in 1989.
Midnight showing. No, I got you. Yeah.
Just got off your late night shift at the car dealership. I get
I hadn't had enough time to get some brewskis with the crew and, check out this midnight premiere. Back when they did that, those were the times. No, I'm just kidding. I've seen this one quite a few times. Sadly enough, well, I guess not sadly enough, I was old enough to see this in theaters. I was like 6 or 7 in 89, so I could have seen it in theaters, but instead I went to go see Back to the Future 2 and 3 and Batman 89 instead. So I didn't get to see this one in theaters, but I remember the trailers on TV, specifically the scene where the shuttle does the crash landing. I know that was like in the trailer, and I thought that was pretty cool, but never got to see it in theaters. Still, though, I'd see it plenty of times during the marathon. Once again on TNT or whatever channel would have it. So I've seen it quite a few times.
Well, what about you, DeVille?
I've only ever seen this movie in full one time. And I remember watching it, I want to say like 13 years ago, because I did rent this DVD and went through it. And that was the first and last time I could remember this movie until I saw it again recently. I saw little bits and pieces on marathons, but this film was never something that really caught my attention. So I didn't really gravitate to wanting to do a full sit down of this particular film, except for that one time long ago.
I gotcha. For me, once again, I probably further about than you, Nabil. I saw this a long time ago. Rented this as well, and for some reason I do remember quite a bit of this movie. So this one obviously stuck with me, even though I've only seen it once. But I have seen it once before. Once again, though, it was only on DVD format, never in the HD 4K that we saw it in now. So let's get into what we actually thought of the movie then. Marco, we'll go back to you here. What did you think of Star Trek V, The Final Frontier? Did you like it or did you not like it?
I guess I lean kind of more on the didn't really like it, but that's not to say it doesn't have like its parts that shine out. There are a lot of like memorable scenes in this, but kind of like how we read earlier on the history behind the movie, the plot itself, I guess it could have been better. I guess the whole story about, searching for God or higher power, it seemed interesting, but it didn't really feel like it had a lot of depth in the story and the script. They just sort of did like a by the motions type movie where they just go from one scene to the next. We're trying to get to like the ending to meet the godlike figure. You think they'd spend more time with like Cybok, like trying to convince people or learn a little bit more about why he's like obsessed with this, but you don't really. There's really like no answer to his backstory other than, he's just that way. And that part doesn't really do it for me. However, there are other saving graces of the story that I'll mention later.
Okay, what about you, Bill?
I thought this film was okay. This is, well, what the kids say there. It's mid. It was, like there's some of the points that Marco was saying. It does feel like it's going through the motions. There could have been more character development with Cybok, specifically getting more on his background. I will say there are elements I did enjoy. There was more action in this, and I really liked seeing the action scenes when they came up over here. I liked the trio camaraderie between Kirk, Spock, and Bones. That was really fun. Every time they were interacting, you got to really see that they had a long-standing connection, and it's even mentioned by Cybok throughout the film. And I did like I like the set pieces. I know the effects weren't the strongest, and I agree with that, especially for a film made in 1989. But they still had some pretty good set pieces for the locations that they were filming at. So I enjoyed some of that too. So there was some good and some bad, but I don't know. I feel like with a lot of the Star Trek films we've seen, some of them have stronger plots than others, and this is one that's kind of a weaker plot. And like we mentioned in our history of the film, it does have kind of a potential for a good ending, but it really kind of falls flat.
I agree with both of you guys to the point. I probably lean a little bit more that I actually enjoyed it for the most part. Strangely enough, I remember watching this, and I remember the horse scene a lot, where they're riding horses into that little outpost, and then they got kind of ambushed and tricked into thinking the hostages are actual hostages. Well, it was just a ploy to get the ship out there, you know. I will say, yeah, the trio is great. Once again, the other characters they always kind of take a back seat, which kind of sucks. Like we never really get to know a lot of the other characters. And I think that's my biggest issue with the Star Trek films, outside of the main three and whoever.
But you get like little nuggets in each film, right? Like just a little bit, not enough to go through. Yeah,
like
a lot less in this one than the previous ones.
Well, I might. That's debatable. I would say Uhura, this one has more lines than she's spoken in all the other previous films combined.
Yeah, so, Uhura has a lot. And Scotty too. There's a good
Scotty too.
There.
Yeah, there's a few. And truthfully, I laughed a few times. There's some comedic elements, especially with that Scotty scene where it's kind of very Looney Tunes like, and he's like, I know the ship at the back of my palm. Then he hits his head, and then like he truthfully is knocked out though.
Yeah,
I actually liked it though. I laughed. I was like, okay, I get it. I liked it. I thought the direction of Shatner wasn't bad. Truth be told, it does feel very Shatner heavy though, if that makes any sense.
I didn't like the close-ups he was doing. The way he was panning, he was having this camera.
I didn't mind some of those. There's a few over-the-shoulder shots that I thought worked really well, especially the scene with Cybok and Chekhov where he's telling him something and then it kind of zooms in. I actually thought that was a pretty good camera movement, to tell you the truth. So,
yeah, it wasn't as big of a fan.
It is the most modern looking out of all of them so far. I thought, if anything, this reminded me more of the movies that I remember seeing during my childhood. Because truthfully, I was alive when this came out. This is the first Star Trek film where I was actually crawling or walking around on this earth that this thing came out. So
Bambino James.
Same with the new Bill, probably.
Yeah.
This wasn't 86. So what did you guys? So what the plot? And by the way, just jumping into plot then. Overall, for me, the thought of like the search for God, that's pretty like out there. It's pretty wild. It's cool that they have someone that we talked about it. Like Cybok he's technically the antagonist, but he's not. Almost in a way, it's just his actions aren't the greatest actions to take if you're trying to do a peaceful person. But I get it. I kind of thought he was going to come off as more like pure evil, but he has actually a good intent and trying to do what he's trying to do. But I don't know.
But I think that feeds into the whole like the path to evil is paved with good intentions. Like he had good intentions.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like the way he went about it. And I kind of like the way that focusing on the good, what Shatner did with that, and how he showed like this guy looks and sounds like he's good. Like he's like helping people and enlightening them. But you know, do the means justify the end, or does the end justify the means? You know. And
I wish it was explored a bit more. I feel like they barely touch on it. Like it could have dived a lot deeper, is what I'm saying. Because, dude, from the point they get to him, I swear there's only like 30 minutes left in the movie, and they're like, we got to get this goddamn thing figured out, right? So,
yeah.
What did you think, Nabil?
I mean, I feel that the Cybok character in general, like, we get so much of little bit of hints of information that it's like, let's expand more. Like, he's Spock's half brother. Well, why was he banished, and what was their relationship like? Like, we saw a little bit of Spock's past with the little flashback going into his brain thing of being born, but you don't really see anything in regards to their relationship. Just a little bit of what he was talking about the fact that they were related. He was on that planet for how long? Why did it just come to now to make this decision to try to get a starship? There's nothing there to kind of expound upon the character, and I feel that there's a missed opportunity there to actually learn more about this and make the story more.
So do you think he was a true villain though, or do you think he was just a true villain? I would have liked God entity at the end, I guess, that's kind of manipulating.
I would have liked that he was a bit more like manic, a little more insane, maybe, you know, a little unhinged, because he's been exiled for so long and he's been really trying to find this, and you know, like that would just a little bit more. But
he didn't come off as evil enough for me if he was going to do it. I wanted him to have a little more like, show me that you've been. I guess that's just Khan then, really, though. Right?
Not enough desperation. I think
he was a charlatan.
He didn't feel desperate.
Yeah. He was nothing but a charlatan, really.
And then the I guess it's not God, but whatever godlike figure that we saw in the end. I know things aren't explained in Star Trek, but also like, what the fuck was
I need a little something. Right? I was like, how do you get the shit coming out of his eyes?
What happened here? Is he a being?
What
Is
is
it an
this
entity? Is it like a Wizard of Oz thing? Like, what's happening here? I don't know.
I think it's like an entity that was trapped, that was sending out these visions and making it so that Cyborg thought he was like the one true god. So like when he gets there, then he discovers like, no, he's just a trapped alien that's like, I lied. I just need your ship. And I do like the scene. I mean, we'll talk about the end, but yeah.
Well, I was gonna say too, like even that part, they mention everybody's tried anything that's kind of tried to go to the barrier has not come back. And it's like, has there been multiple attempts and people have seen this being, or
he's probably been trying to? He probably finds a one person that can connect him somehow, and tries to get them to come, and then they blow up. He's like, "Damn it, not again!"
Or similar to what he tried to do when they found out he was a fake. He tried to kill them, so he probably killed everyone else because they found out. Oh wait, you're a fraud.
Yeah, I'm not gonna help you. And then he's like, "My eyes, I look like you now." Yeah, your clothes are black. Sorry. So I can. I mean, okay, I can see that. I'm gonna bring up the action in the movie as well. I thought the action was actually pretty well done. There's actually quite a few scenes where I talked about lack of action in previous movies, and they definitely make up for in this one. And I know ILM didn't do it. You can tell some of the shots are a little rough.
And the props look like crap.
Yeah, you can definitely tell they're just like miniatures at scenes, but I don't know. I guess I'm just getting used to these movies, maybe because I'm just kind of warming up to them a little bit. I'm like, it's okay, I guess,
It's the cast.
Yeah, they have their own kind of style.
I think it is
right?
the cast. It probably is. It's probably the cast.
Well, they're also, they're older.
And thinking of that, is that age? You guys, is this starting to finally show?
Oh yeah, each film
is showing,
except for Kirk. I don't know. I feel like Kirk looked pretty good in this film.
He was working out a lot too, apparently, because he knew. I read because he was doing like directorial stuff and he was training like every morning at 4 a.m. no matter what. So I think he made it like a big priority to make sure that he looked good for this movie.
He got rid of that puffy mullet too that he had in the previous movies.
That was Jerry curls, man. What do you mean?
He tapered it down. I was like, there you go. Taper that shit, dude.
Yeah, I would say he looks okay. And then I know Bones is like fucking ancient, but he looks okay in this one too. Compared to the last one. Like I'm like, okay, he's not bad. Spock's starting to show though. I can see the most makeup on Spock every time.
Yeah.
Every time I see Spock, I'm like, that's a heavy cream on his face there. Overall, what about any other characters? Anybody like did they I don't like I said, I don't think they grow too much in these films, and I don't think that's the point. Obviously, it's more or less like these are just more adventures because they didn't have their own show. At this point, the new show was already starting, right? Am I correct?
Yeah,
yes, Voyage or not Voyager, Next Generation already started at this point. Yeah,
and had that been going on for a while, or was that like relatively new?
It started in 86, 87, so it'd been going on for like 3 years or so.
I wonder if people were like, why aren't the new people in the movies now? Like, why are we still seeing the guys in the fucking 60s? Like, okay, you had your time, guys.
Oh, shit.
I'm just wondering, like, in 89, it must have crossed someone's mind. Like, okay, I mean, I guess they're starting to get pretty old. Like,
I mean, especially they use the same score from the TV show, too. This is actually one of the only other movies that has the same score as The Next Generation. This one and the motion picture.
That's why they're like, we already have it. Why don't we just use it? Like, that's true. I didn't mind the score though. I even like the scene in the Yosemite, as random as it is.
I like that. Yeah, that was nice.
It's kind of cool when they're on actual like locations in these movies. I've noticed. Like I really like when they're in the city, and then the Yosemite shots are actually in Yosemite, and then they just built like a fake mountain or something from no climb. But I liked it though.
You mean he wasn't at the top of that mountain and then fell off and was caught by?
No, it was a fiberglass mountain that they used. They built out there.
Those are, I think, the best scenes are like the Yosemite. I liked all the scenes in Yosemite. I liked the action scenes, like where he was in that planet with the horses, and they were on the.
You mean Mos Eisley Cantina that he tried to create?
Basically, what it was.
Hands down, he was like, "What if we do the Star War?"
Even when they were on the planet, they had a little bit of action going on over there. That was, all those scenes.
And then even the ending scene where he's getting chased by the entity and he needs to get beamed up and
chased around the ship. Those were cool too. Like the action was. I feel like to all the films over here that we've seen so far, this is one of the stronger, like, consistent action film scenes, and I think it has to do with the fact that he was also, I'm sure, I don't know if he actually did direct anything, but I'm sure he had some hand in some of the
He
T.J.
did
Hooker
10 episodes of T.J. Hooker.
Yeah,
Or
so I'm
Booker?
sure
Sorry.
It's Hooker. So
yeah,
I
he
think
did 10 episodes. I read that was his only experience before this.
Yeah, so I think some of that probably rubbed off on coming on having a stronger action scenes in these films. So yeah, I like them a lot.
Marco, what about the look of the film overall? And I mean, jumping on with Nabil's comments about his directing, what did you think of Shatner's directions or directing?
The whole Leonard Nimoy directing, I think, is a little bit better and more refined than Shatner. Though I do appreciated Shatner's style, especially with the action sequences. They as simple as they were, those set pieces, they were riveting. Even though the special effects really didn't show off that well, he did a lot with what he had. Truthfully, they could have looked a lot shittier, but they still looked relatively in danger when they're trying to subdue Paradise City. Did anyone else think of Guns N' Roses when they fucking mentioned the name of the city? I just kept thinking Paradise City. Anyway,
I was like, okay.
all right, I guess it's just me. Anyway, where's Mikey when I need him? God damn it!
He's fine.
I know, Mikey, pull through. I need you.
Yeah, please, for the love of God, Michael,
oh, please leave the little one alone. I still thought that his style was good. There's one scene in specific when he's challenging Cybok, and Cybok has converted Bones and to a point Spock, and he's trying to tell him, let me free you of your pain, and he says, like, I need my pain. He's having that whole spiel about like how this guy's a con man and how like our pain makes us who we are. Like, that was well directed. Like, that was like
it was.
a really
I think
good
that scene with Leonard McCoy with Bones, basically with his father, was really touching, and I just realized, I was like, man, DeForest Kelley was the best actor on that crew, wasn't he? Like, hands down. Like, he was the best one. And then I was thinking about it. I was going to look it up. I was like, was he like classically trained? He must have been, or something, because that was a good scene.
Yeah. Contrast that with the action set piece of the shuttle crash landing, and like, I do like how the other characters get a little bit of a highlight. Like, you get to see what a skilled like helmsman Sulu is, and like how like
which was cool
decision making. Yeah, how cunning he is too, because he'd never done that type of crash landing before, and he's able to do it. And that'll speak to something later on in the series too. But I think he filmed that pretty well. Shatner did. It was a really cool, like, exciting scene that is one of the main ones that I remember from this movie. Is like, oh, this is one where the shuttle crashes, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, overall, I enjoyed his director style. It wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I think that Shatner did a good job. He carried the scenes well. He shot the action pretty well, and he's still let some of the characters shine out here and there, like Sulu in that scene, and Scotty when he's fixing the ship and having those like soft moments with Uhura and stuff, and you see like how this crew has grown together. So overall, I think that Shatner
did he like romantically involved, by the way?
Kind of hinted
at it.
I don't know if that is something that was hinted before. Is that something new? I just
was new in this film that
I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I was like,
all I know is like Shatner didn't really have to include the dance scene, but I'm like, of course Shatner would. He didn't have to, but of course
you would. He didn't have to include the Sulu and Chekhov falling the Klingon. I was like, you're not fooling anyone with Sulu. So what did you guys think about the ending then? So we get the reveal that the god entity is not real, and then Cybok realizes he's like, ruh-roh. He fucked up, and he decides to basically use his little kind of, I guess, his ability to kind of have people agree with him, and he kind of sacrifices himself to
show me your pain.
Kind of destroy the entity, but only to put it into a more raw form, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he actually ended up destroying it. That, I don't know. I do feel that it was anticlimactic, like I mentioned earlier.
It was supposed to be like a rock monster at the end, by the way, supposedly.
Oh, really?
That was the thing that the budgets had to change the ending slightly.
Yeah. So
you can tell.
And the sacrifice, I feel there wasn't like a big redemption arc for him. He just, like you said, James, he noticed, oh crap, I messed up, and then it's just like, well, I'm gonna make up for all the things that I've done wrong in my life now for this one thing, and it's just like, okay.
See, And that's where I'm like, I wish we had a little bit more with him and Spock. And like, give me a
Yeah.
little more of that drama. Give me a little more of it. And then
It feels like this movie should have focused on that. Like that should have been the focal point between these two brothers. And then, like Nabil said, that sacrifice would have been earned more and would have had more.
they should have
weight
got
to it.
Skywalker in the first 35 to 40 minutes and then done the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
That's how
And
it
if they
should have went.
didn't, and if he couldn't do it for whatever reason with the budget, if we just had him be just a famous Vulcan in general, not necessarily the half brother, that would have been okay too. Because like I looked up to him and look what he's become. But the fact that they put him in as his half brother, you wanted that deeper connection. We needed to get more of that to show that it was earned.
At the very least, the memory that Spock had, you think it should have been related to Cybok, and that would have been like something that.
Yeah, but that's not his most. His biggest fear was because he was half human. That's why.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's give this one a rating. 1 through 5. What do you give it, Marco? And would you still recommend it or not?
I give this one a 2.5 star, and even though I sway kind of more on the dislike scene, there's still a lot in the movie that's worth watching. I think the crew. I think even though the message is not as strong as it should be, I think it's good enough and still entertaining, especially if you're a completionist for this film or the series. I mean,
what about you, Nabil?
I gave this 3 stars. I thought the action was still good. I'd recommend watching it. The plot isn't the strongest, but there's a lot of other redeeming qualities of the film that makes it enjoyable to watch, and I had a pretty much good time throughout.
Yeah, same here. I didn't fall asleep during this one, so I gave it 3 stars. I actually found it entertaining. Like I said, maybe I'm just starting to warm up to these a little bit, but I thought the action was good. I thought there's a good mix of comedy, actually. Like I said, I laughed quite a bit. So overall, I would recommend it. It's not a bad little film. It's not the strongest Star Trek film that we've seen so far, but comparatively, not a bad one. So let's move on now to a review of Speak No Evil.
Luis, we need to get out of here now. Luis, what are you doing?
Everything okay in there?
Yeah, we're all good.
Anything we can get you?
No, we'll just be a minute.
We can't let on. Yeah? We can't look stressed or scared. We just have to go out there and be completely normal.
Speak No Evil, sitting at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. The story for this movie goes, a family is invited to spend a whole weekend in a lonely home in the countryside. But as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. This one's directed by James Watkins, who did Eden Lake in 2008, The Woman in Black in 2012, and The Take in 2016. It's a remake of a Danish film, also called Speak No Evil, that came out in 2022. This version was released September 13th of this year in theaters. With a budget of $15 million, so far it has grossed $20.8 million. Not bad. This one stars Mackenzie Davis as Louise Dalton, Scoot McNairy as Ben Dalton, Alex West Leffler as Agnes Dalton, Dan Hugh as Ant, James McAvoy as Patty, Aisling Francoisi as Ciara, and Chris Hitchen as Mike. So before we get into it, we are going to have just a normal section followed where we go spoiler free. So you can listen to this if you haven't seen the movie yet. And then later on, we're going to have a full spoiler section. That being said, we're going to go on our thoughts of the film. We'll start with Mr. Nabil. What are your thoughts on the movie? And did you get a chance to watch the original Danish film?
The film itself, I enjoyed, and I thought it was a good mix of not really horror, but thriller, and also a little bit of a mystery. I enjoyed that. Did I ever watch the original? No, I have not watched the original Danish film. I am, of course, an ignorant American, so I don't do that. Sorry.
We're very cultured on this podcast. What about our MC, BDJ? What did you think of the movie, and have you seen the original Danish movie?
I've not seen it. It's on my list. I'll probably see it this week, but it's been on my watch list for a while because I've heard really good things about it when it came out 2 years ago. And, it's weird. When I first saw this last week, I was like, it's okay. But the more I've thought about it, I kept thinking about it. So actually, I really did actually enjoy this film. I just kept kind of thinking about things about it. And I think it's one of those movies, just like Midsommar, when I first saw it, it wasn't really like Slice of Pie. Then, now I love that movie. So this one has slowly grown on me. And we'll go into it, but like Nabil said, it's more of a thriller, I would say, and it has some really interesting interactions that I think it does like perfectly. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, I haven't seen the Danish version, though I did watch a trailer for it after seeing this version, just to kind of see some similarities or not. I really enjoyed this one. I went to go see it with my brother, and we had... I know this is a thriller / semi-horror, but we had fun watching this movie. Yeah. We had a fun crowd at this one, man. More on that later, but some of it had to do with some of the interactions. I think this is one that's definitely worth seeing in theaters if you can. Some really good performances here. So with that, let's get into the plot. Nabil, what did you think of this plot of this family, befriending another one and then seeing that there's more than meets the eye?
So the plot, what they show in the trailers, focuses on McAvoy, and I want to say that McAvoy is the film here, because without him, another actor trying to do this, it may not be as sold as well, and it could be more of a run-of-the-mill thriller. The plot itself is set up that way, where you're going in and you kind of know that some crazy shit's going to happen as you're continuing in the film from the beginning to the start. Like, it's just going to kind of escalate. So it's something we've seen before.
I would say the trailer shows a little too fucking much, though.
As it typically does. Yeah, they trying to give away a little more than they should. But I will say that even though that's the case, where you could say that the plot is similar to something you might have seen before, like kind of what even James was saying, some of the conversations, the interactions between the characters, the subtlety between, especially like the, we'll say animosity between Mackenzie Davis's character and James McAvoy's character. It really makes the film that much better. Like their performances together like that, their interactions, I think that it made the film more unique than just another horror film that has the same kind of plot line.
Nice. James, what about you? What did you think of the plot, and what did you think of the themes that the movie was trying to say?
It's an interesting one. The plot's cool. Like it's like these two families meet on vacation. They kind of hit it off, and there's a lot of issues going on back at home between Louise and Ben, right? So they're like, hey, like our friends from this Italian adventure sent us a postcard to come and visit them. Let's take them up on their offer. And two completely different people. We'll get into them in characters, because the breakdown of these is kind of hilarious for some of these people. And I think the theme is something about society norms of how people interact with people and try to, how to say this without offending people. Like, people will go out of their way to try to please others, I think, a lot of times, especially in these awkward situations, even though like your guttural instinct and your natural instinct is to bolt or run or get out of that situation. But I think the movie does a really good job of exploring like how far someone will go to try to stay normal around, quite frankly,
an intense situation.
Yeah, intense or even outright outlandish, really, interactions with people, and it shows, because there's even like a comment of that near the end of the film where. And there's many times throughout the film where I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's get out of there.
It's almost like a double-edged sword, where some people on the opposite end will take advantage of that too. Will like kind of sniff that and be like, oh, this person's not going to say shit if I just keep doing this.
Yeah, and they almost are pressing buttons to the point where it's like, okay, like it's getting a little out of hand now. Maybe this should happen. Yeah. And I liked how throughout the film that's presented in a way, and it's... like, that's why I'm like, I didn't really see horror in this one, even though it's, it's Blumhouse and blah, blah, but there's a lot of commentary, I think, on the way people interact and like how far you go to please someone. And even in the point of where like we learn like the main protagonists were following her, because they're coming from such a rough start that some characters are kind of giving the others a little bit more of a leeway with what they want to do, because it's making them kind of happy, so they're like, okay, well, even though I fucking hate being here, I'm going to let you do this, and we'll see how this plays out, because I don't want to make it even worse, because I've already kind of ruined the last 6 months of our fucking life, so
right.
That's how I thought that's what I thought more about after the film. I was like, they did a really good job of presenting that, by the way.
Yeah, I think the actors did a good job at portraying the characters, like as you mentioned. And speaking of characters, let's get into that actually. Nabil, what did you think of some of the characters like Louise? Like, did you enjoy her being more the level-headed one in of the family? Like, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the way that Mackenzie Davis was playing Louise, she is supposed to be the one that's seeing that things are weird, but it's coming off in a way that she's the one who's being weird. Like she's got prejudice because she's looking at them like they're lower. It comes off like they're lower class, or they don't know.
She's like, sheets are dirty.
Right.
They're farm people. Come on.
Exactly. Yeah. So it seems like she's just kind of dismissing these people and saying that these people are beneath her, and it comes off as like, yeah, maybe there's something wrong.
Maybe to a point, though, Neville, because I think at a certain point, though, you do start siding with her. Like, yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially as the film progresses, like she's more and more in the right. But with her husband, for example, like Ben, he is seeing a life that he wants to have, or at least he thinks he wants to have. He wants to live like Patty does, with the love of the woman that he's with, and like the lifestyle.
He's a little bit jealous.
He's envious of what he sees. Yeah,
exactly. Like,
but the biggest issue with Ben, though, is that he's a bitch.
He is. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Confidence, none of that swag. He's just
even when he thinks he's doing the right thing. I was like, dude, you're fucking up, man.
There's a scene where he goes and says, "I don't know what to do." Like he's just straight up like, And
what do you think we should do, guys? I was like, oh man,
maybe get the fuck out of there. I don't know.
There's a where he just does something with the ladder, and I start laughing.
We'll get to that. Nabil, I would say those things would hammer home a little bit more if, like James said, the trailer didn't show so much. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think we are supposed to sort of like, it's sort of supposed to be like shown kind of ambiguous. Is she being prejudiced, or are these people really weird?
You're supposed to be like, maybe they are okay, but because the trailer shows you, like, oh no, I know they're not okay because blah 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 showed them stuff.
Yeah, because anytime Patty says something, right, and it seems weird, he then jokes it off. He's like, you guys are fucking too serious. Like, it's just a joke, kind of thing. So then you're like, oh, relief, everything's fine. We're crazy. Like, even with
like, he was gaslighting though, where she's like, he's like, have this because like he knows, and then Ben just like, I'm a bitch, so I won't do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was like, dude, they did that to Janelle. I'm like, no, dude, what the fuck? What are you doing?
yeah, dude. Like, oh my god, he just took a back seat the whole time.
Bro. I get it. I see why she took the action she took.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, gotta let it go.
And yeah, Patty did, he, like we said, he sensed that and would push that, which speaking of, like, I save this for James for selfish reasons, but what were your thoughts of James McAvoy's performance as Patty and his physical appearance?
I gotta say it, man.
Comment on Ben some more too.
I gotta say, Patty was, or James McAvoy was great. Dude. He is probably the one reason to see this movie.
Yeah, he's a fucking scene stealer, dude.
Even if it's weird, it's just like, it's good to see him. Like, he's really kind of like flexing his acting on this one too. I really liked his scenes, and he is true. I mean, we're not gonna get into it much, but yeah, he's truly like a monster. Like he's like hiding in sight. There's a lot of these little things where he's talking about, even early on, where he's like, he doesn't like with the fox, and he's like, oh, like, you got to be the predator and all this stuff. It's just a lot of like foreshadowing for future things.
Dude, even things like like you guys mentioned, the whole food thing, knowing that,
Luis is vegetarian.
Luis is vegetarian, and he still like makes meat and stuff. And he tries to do that twice also to, to be an asshole, in a way. And the swimming scene that's also in the trailer, like, he's definitely like flexing on them. They obviously didn't like bring bathing suits and stuff, and he's like basically like cornering them into like, no, let's go for a swim, in our underwear and stuff. Like,
dude, he's jacked in this movie, by the way.
He is.
Good. He is like, I'm like, dude, he came a long way from fucking Professor Xavier, because I was like, oh my god, dude, like he is hulking near the end. I'm like, dude, did he like?
This Professor X would fuck Magneto up. I'm just saying, he would fuck him up.
I was like, oh my god, dude! Like, he's physically, like really, like he's very intimidating.
Yeah. So he does a really great job at like switching that switch where he's like calm and like trying to be your friend, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, he's like intimidating, giving you this look like,
you
hey, I'm
see
not
it a lot. with the way that he treats Ant, his son, right? It's just like he's like a shithead to him. He goes against like everything he's talking about too, and that's where like around the kid is like really where he starts unraveling, I think. And it's slowly like hints at, and it starts like getting worse and worse and worse throughout their trip there.
Yeah.
So, and then that goddamn rabbit, that fucking
fucking rabbit, man.
Let go. Dude, they technically were like, we can go. She's like, where's Hopper? And I would have been like, dead.
I will comment on that on Agnes. Like at first, I am with child actors. I'm like, oh shit, here we go, guys, here we go. But you know what? She actually turned out to be like pretty clutch as the film progressed. Like, fuck, she was more useful than her fucking dad, a grown up. I was like, dude, your daughter's showing you up, dude. I would have
been a little more heavy-handed with her. But
yeah,
she's resourceful. I like that she could think on her feet to try to,
He's like, girl was 12, and I was like, probably say the same thing.
When even your like fucking daughter is like saying, "Hey, we should get the fuck out of here," and you're the
like
fucking adult saying like, "No, let's fucking."
There's the little plot with her and like Ant slowly trying to tell her like what he's trying to kind of reveal to her, and I like that suspense. By the way, what happened to the babysitter that just never showed back up?
Oh,
Bill's,
I know, right?
Yeah. I thought he was going to get connected somehow. Then he's like, no, he just was literally just some guy, I guess.
Some random guy.
He's like, let me show you magic. I show you magic here.
I know. We've already talked about some of them, but before we go into our ratings and then spoiler section, are there any other thoughts on some of the scenes, like the embarrassing moments, your cringy moments you guys want to discuss? I'll leave this open for you guys.
I think they do them perfectly every time they come up, man. Even like when they discover oh, your daughter fell asleep or was crying out for you and stuff, and I was like, that's still fucking weird, dude. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that scene that you're mentioning, James, and again, we don't want to spoil too much here, but
no, yeah, that's why I'm being like vague.
The way that it was presented, the rationale that was given as to why, it did make you feel a little bit like, okay, I see what this person's going through and why this must have happened. And then you kind of like they always find a way to bring it back to saying, no, you're just a piece of shit because here's what I've had to go through, or this is a situation you guys are taking.
Yeah, and I didn't want that to happen. And I was like,
in a way, yeah. Like it sort of does seem like they are like gaslighting him at the same time. Like it's like, dude, like is it really that explanation? Like, or why didn't you like bring this up earlier? But
there's even a scene at a restaurant though where it's just like really awkward, man.
Yeah, it is.
And then they put a
Marco special there, and I was like,
right? It goes on too long, and then suddenly it's like it's just a joke.
It is, and the bill it's quiet. I was like, I don't like the head hitting the table.
Yeah,
it's getting weird for me.
I mean, that was kind of move to do too.
Great scene, by the way, in the room when they're discussing afterwards. Mikey called it out that you can see Patty in the window of the door during that scene, and I didn't notice it until he brought it up. I was like, oh my god, that's hella creepy, man.
It is,
yeah, dude. They do a good job at making like each scene kind of seem tenseful and creepy. I will say that. I don't really think we can discuss anything more without really getting into spoilers. So let's get into our rating section here, where we rate the film 1 to 5 stars, with 1 being terrible, 5 being great. Go ahead and start with BDJ here, our MC. What do you rate Speak No Evil on a scale of 1 to 5?
You know what? I originally rated this 3 on my Letterboxd review, so you probably see that. But since I've been thinking about it, I have bumped it up to a 3.5. It's really the climax of it. It's where it probably loses a lot of points for me. There's some things that it kind of turns more Hollywood at that point. But leading up to that, I think the first 3 acts are pretty solid.
Right on. What about you, Nabil? What do you rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 5?
I liked it a bit more. I actually gave this 4 stars, and I think it's all James McAvoy. He sells the whole film for me, and throughout the film, every time I think something bad might be happening, he just makes it worth continuing on this path. And so, it's a great film to watch for me.
I rate this one a 3.5 stars. I think it's an enjoyable movie. Specifically, McAvoy just sells the movie. He's a scene stealer. And whether you are scared, creeped out, or not, or just having a good time, or laughing at the awkward scenes, I think it's enjoyable. All right, so we are into our spoiler section for Speak No Evil. So Please be warned, if you have not seen the movie, you need to stop listening right now, put pause, go watch the sucker if you can, then come back and check this out.
Yeah, you wouldn't want us to ruin this for you.
Yeah, because there are some scenes that are not revealed in the trailer, surprisingly enough. Specifically, our thoughts on Patty and Ciara. I'll leave this one open for you guys also. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that, on the reveal? Because there's a specific scene that happens when the Aang and Ant are playing, and Ant coerces Aang to come look at a specific room. Agnes, yeah.
He's like, give me Aang. I'm like, from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Well, they call her,
get out of here.
They call her Aang in the movie too, and it gets confusing because they're like Aang and Ant. I'm like, which one are you talking about, guys?
Seriously? I thought they called her Agnes. I don't remember. Sorry, or Angie or something. I don't fucking remember. It's kind of. I mean, it's kind of predictable though, right? I will say that much. Like, I wasn't shocked, right? You guys weren't like, whoa, what? They're really fucking kidnapping kids and killing the families? I mean, I kind of expected that.
Yeah. I think the review is what it is that they do, because it's like, we know they're psycho, we know they're crazy, but what is it that they're going to do? And
I think it's
Ant reveals the whole album book.
Yeah, because Ant
only their history.
Only can write in German first off, right? So I'm like, okay, so that's different, right? And then he shows the watches, and obviously the collection of watches, the etching on the back doesn't have anything to do with Patty or anything, right? So obviously that was taken from someone.
I knew those were trophies, by the way.
Yeah.
Or he just likes watches. I don't know. Thanks for the watch. Cool. But it was cool. I mean, like I said, it was predictable, though.
I think it was interesting, though. Just the little difference is that they were taking kids as their own each time. Until they found another one that they like.
They don't break it down, right, Will? They kind of are hinting like they always have a kid. I'm assuming the kid just like loses it by the time they get another. Are they always cutting their tongues off or something? I don't know. It's fucking wild.
I'm thinking that they kill every time they find a new family. Just kill the old kid and you have a new one and try again.
Now we have a new child.
Well,
that will love us.
I think one of the bigger reveals is the fact that Ciara was originally one of the kids, and he groomed her basically like the whole. Like there's even a comment earlier where Louise questions them because they're saying they've been together for 17 years, and she looks at Ben and is like, wait, how old is she? Right. And like, it's not revealed until you look at the album. And it's like,
how old was she though?
Shit.
I think she probably should have looked a little younger, because truthfully, when I looked at him, I was like, that's okay to me. Like, age wise,
in like her late 20s at that point, and so he would have been a little older because he takes him. If you think that
she looked like she was in her 30s, though, right? If we can be honest.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I feel like she was supposed to be kind of younger. I feel like, but I get it. They got the right actor for the right job.
Ben says a disgusting comment later in the movie that kind of confirms it, though. It's like, oh shit, this guy.
Well,
I mean, she said some stuff where she's like, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nimble.
No, I was going to say, like, to what Marco was saying, that it seemed like once he found out that Ciara died, that he was going to take Agnes to essentially groom her to take her place.
Yep. She's the only one that can protect her or something, right? Yeah.
He even mentions a comment when they fake her first time of the month.
Yeah.
And he's like, he makes the comments like, now you're a woman, and gives a really creepy stare. It's like, fuck, this guy's fucking psycho and a creeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then I just couldn't trust Ciara the whole time too, because she's like, oh, he's abusing me, take me with you. But that was just a trap too, just to like snuff someone out if she could, because later you see her, she's fighting all she can.
Yeah, I took that as she's been like groomed all this time to the point where she's too far gone.
She's too far gone. They could have never saved her, even though she was like, take me with you. I'm like, no, that's a trap too.
Exactly. Her mind's gone. Thoughts on the climax of the film too, and how like I know we mentioned already, this isn't really like a horror per se. I mean, there's some creepy scenes. This is more like a thriller. But
turns into Home Alone.
Kind of, yeah. So
literally,
it's like a reverse Home Alone. And instead of being trapped in your home, you trap yourself in the criminal's house, and then they're trying to break in and get to
Home
you.
Alone 2, Lost in New York. Okay. Okay, I mean, same thing. This is
Lost in the Wilderness.
I don't know if they said that many traps.
It's like a fucking reverse home invasion.
Yeah. They do enough that it's like, I mean, you see how good Luis is at like defending her family. And then Ben stands in a closet for 45 minutes.
I did like that fucking Ben had the. I like that Ben had that bottle of whatever alcohol that he had, and he lit up.
Misses because he can't throw, Nabil, because he throws like a bitch. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Dude, okay,
Yeah.
the entire theater, my whole theater in Vacaville, we were fucking dying, but we were having a good time. We weren't like riffing on the movie. It's just the situation was so weird and awkward that you couldn't help but laugh. That dude you
my
couldn't
theater
even throw
laughed.
that bottle.
Dude, well, yeah, I actually mentioned to Mikey, I was like, I didn't realize Marco was out there throwing bottles. So I was like, holy shit, Marco was a stunt double for this?
She's like my left hand. Oh my god, my
Good head,
rotator
guys,
fell.
don't worry. Dude, we laughed when he looked down and she was like, no, Ben. I was like, is he gonna jump? What a fucking idiot. What's the roll? Dude, when he landed, I was dying. He's like, ugh. I was like, oh my god, he landed on his feet. What an idiot.
He didn't even bend his legs.
He didn't even try to.
He's like, ugh. I was like, dude, that's not the. You could have even just kind of like. I know he was trying to hold down. Like you had a ledge there. Like jumped, float to the ledge, catch it, then let yourself go. But I was like, all right, buddy.
There was kind of no redeeming factor for Ben. Like he was like you said, he was hiding in the closet. He goes out to like hit the goon with the softest hammer hit I've ever seen. I'm like, dude, you have a fucking hammer.
By the way, doesn't work.
Yeah. It does.
His wife has to come and save him.
Luis has to come and use the correct end to fucking brain the guy. I was fucking. The theater was dying there too. Like we were fucking laughing. We're like, oh my god, this guy's fucking pathetic.
I mean, it even comes down to like. I mean, I get it. He's not the type, right? You get it. Not everybody's
consistent with it, right? I don't hate that he didn't just suddenly become some superhuman
in the relationship, and Ben is not the alpha. I did like that plot where Luis was like sexting a PTA member or some shit, right? And that's why they're cause of their concern and like fighting amongst each other, and that's why Ben kind of wants to be more like Patty. They had that kind of primal moment together where they're just kind of yelling, which I thought was a really good scene, and it kind of reveals that Ben's more of a follower, though, I think, and
you know,
Patty's who he
from
thinks
there,
he wants to be.
Yeah, exactly. Even during the vacation, he spots him. He's like, "Oh, those guys seem like they're having fun," you know, and he's trying to be that guy where he's like, "That'd be cool, but never mind. I'll just deal with my life." So I don't know, but it is. Yeah. I will say this much though: the violence does ramp up a bit in those moments. So not as much as I thought it would be, though. So
it's all just at the end. Like it really just ramps up really there.
It's the last 20 minutes, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of crazy because they're about to leave and it gets really tense and like, oh, your Tesla tire's out, and I'm like, that'd be impossible to fix. I'll let you know right now. So
pretty much,
and then they just do this thing though where like they throw Ant into the pond, which I thought was like, okay, they're playing their cards now, right?
Oh yeah, like it's a full reveal, dude. It's a really menacing scene. He just chucks him in there, and then
he's got Luis at him.
The fucking handgun just pointed right at her, and like he's ready to pull the trigger, and like it's believable. I'm like, I believe this guy will pull the trigger. Yeah, Bill, thoughts on the way the movie ends? Because all right, the family Daltons end up winning, obviously, and spoiler section. Freaking the little kid Ant. His dad or his kidnapper is on the floor. Neither Luis nor Ben decide to execute him, and Ant just grabs a brick and just goes ham on him.
Which, by the way, is more like a real kind of like commentary on Ben again, because like he couldn't pull the trigger on the fox, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's hinted that he's like, because Patty's like, you got to show what kind of person you really are, and Patty's a killer, and it shows that Ben's not, right?
That's why Patty smiled when he didn't pull the trigger at the end. Like. He knew he wouldn't, but it ends up Ant does it, and then
Ben, you a bitch.
They're leaving. They're leaving, and there's a focus on Ant. Like, how do you interpret that film? That scene, Nabil?
I mean, he's Austrian/German. I mean, it's just
he's done something about his. Nabil's trying to hit. It's in his blood, boys.
No, got that dog in him.
the kid's been through hell, right? He saw his parents murdered. He was about to be drowned in the lake that his parents were in. He got his
tongue out, man.
Yeah, like he has nothing but animosity towards his men. When he had the opportunity to finally do something, he did it, and that, I mean, it's gonna fuck him up for the rest of his life. But not just killing the guy, but just everything he went through. But yeah, I think it's just desserts for him, and I think it's probably a good thing that Ben was too much of a bitch to do anything about it, because it actually allowed the kid to have some kind of redemption in this whole thing, like have some kind of avenging his parents, for what he was put through.
And then Agnes gives him the rabbit because it's like, I don't need this anymore. You need this more. You need somebody to kind of comfort you and show you love.
Yeah. Right. But I like how it's kind of ambiguous. Like, this kid is either saved or he's fucked the rest of his life.
Oh, he's
pretty
fucked,
much.
Right. They might have told him. They might have
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a rough.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Before we go on our closing thoughts, were there any other highlights or low points of the movie? Any scenes that stood out to you, James?
I thought it was kind of cool that Mike was almost like, I'm not really into this. The one guy, the chef dude, he's like, I don't really feel like I should be doing this shit. Like, he sees your face. He's like, yep. He's like,
you're part of it now.
Yeah. He's like, you're in it now.
I do like before he gets killed though too. Patty's like, that's my boy. Like, he knows.
Yep.
So, like, and by the way, that scene completely jacked. I was like, did he do pull-ups right before this or something? Because them muscles, he got some deltoids that are just popping.
Yeah.
I was like,
now, Bill, anything for you that sticks out other than McAvoy's muscles?
I mean, those are pretty impressive, but I will point out the scene where they're having lunch or whatever, and the kids are showing off the dance. Like, it's so uncomfortable throughout that whole scene, and it just gets worse.
Yep.
Like, it's not. That's what this film does really well, is that it puts you in these uncomfortable moments. And in most movies, it'll just like you get one or two, and you kind of move on from that scene. But they really make you sit with it for quite some time, past the uncomfortable spot, and you're like, "Why the fuck are we still here?" Moment.
Like, mommy and daddy got a little arguing at the dinner table, and you got to just keep eating. You're like, fuck, you know what I mean? But it happens like 6 times.
Exactly. And you're just like, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything about this. This is just
Ben and Patty in the car, and Patty's just singing and staring at him. I was like, I've been in a car with James like that.
Yeah, well, that was a little weird too, right? I was just like, hey, keep your eye on the road there, big guy. I'll still be here.
For me, it's more or less like I guess a theme or something. But what stuck out for me is you sort of saw like every stage of like the process for these fucking criminals. Like, you see like the hunt and the grooming steps where they go after the Daltons. They're trying to convince them to go into the house. You see like the kid Aang sort of like already in their custody, and they're like, living out their plan of this is being their quote unquote kid. And then you see the end result, which is in a way Ciara, who's already been living with this fucking psychopath for years and stuff. So you got to see like the full cycle of like this murderous family's like cycle. And I thought that was kind of fucking creepy. This is what could have been like the end result for the Daltons, and it's just fucking creepy. That sort of stuck out for me.
Yeah.
And that does it for our review of 2024's Speak No Evil.
Thank you, Marco. And that is the end of the podcast. Appreciate you all for tuning in for this episode. Marco, let them know how they can reach us.
You can listen and follow us on your preferred podcast platform. Trust us, we are everywhere. For a convenient link to all our social media channels, visit linktree/moviepalspod. That's linktr.ee/moviepalspod. And remember, smash that subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode in this town or the next. Plus, catch us on TikTok for sneak peeks of upcoming episodes and more exciting movie content. Follow us at MoviePalsPod.
Make sure to tune in for our next episode, podcast episode number 184, where we will be finally completing our Coppola Corner with a review of the much anticipated Megalopolis.
My God, it's happening.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it, boys. It was just a rumor when we started, and guess what? It's done. Thank you, Nabil. Until next time, this is James.
Marco?
Nabil.
Have a good one.